Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Unplugged with the Jas Oberoi Group. Today we have a very special guest here. Her name is Karla, and I'm going to actually let you do your introduction. But before you do that, I do want to let the viewers know that Karla, she's a neighbor, a friend, and a client. And we were actually, we went out for lunch a few weeks ago. And the topics that we were discussing, Jas was with us, and Jas was telling us these are the type of topics you actually want to do a podcast on, because there's going to be a lot of women that can relate to you and that would actually want to hear this. So finally, the day has come that we're going to do this podcast. And and I'm going to actually let you introduce yourself, Karla. Tell the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much, Maria. I'm Karla. I'm a registered architect. I've been a registered architect in BC for 13 years. I own my own architectural practice. I opened KCC Architecture in 2015, so it's 9 years. I have a group of my team is eight to 9 people. And we're currently building a very exciting building and a project, which is 13,000 square feet for an industrial building in Campbell Heights. And that is for Nanak Foods. So you probably recognize them for Nanak yogurts.
Yeah, we know them very well.
Yeah. I love their products.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky and I'm very fortunate to be working with the team and building their facility as we speak.
Wow, 13,000.
1,300,000 square feet.
Oh my God, wow, that's huge. Yeah, and when are you expecting that project that's going to be finished?
So it's been a little bit of a fast track project, as we call them. And currently we just received the building permit application. It was issued a week ago. And the construction already started a month ago with a foundation permit.
Oh, wow.
So we're kind of paddling there just to get it done before a huge equipment that they order from Germany arrives to Canada. So basically
nice.
we're trying to complete the building before that happens. Yeah.
Very neat. Yeah. And I know you've done a lot of work for us, for our clients, for everybody else too. So super stoked that we can actually do this. Yeah. And that you've come, and I know you're a very busy person.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, but obviously the topics that we're going to be discussing today, like I'm so excited about that, because I know that I think a lot of people are actually going to be interested in listening to those. But let's talk, actually, we'll talk about what we were talking about at lunch that day.
Sure.
So I think you and me, I don't know, maybe currently even, we're going through the same phase where we're trying to, your career is established, but I'm trying to establish my career more, right? And I'm trying to find that balance between being feminine, but also being a businesswoman, right? And being portrayed as a businesswoman and being seen as like she's an intelligent girl, she's smart, right? Like I want that to be like how people portray me. And so that's how the conversation started. But one of the main things that you asked me that day, because we both are from like male dominated industries, right?
Correct.
It was so interesting to me because before that I did not think about it. You asked me, who is your role model, right?
As a woman.
Yeah, as a woman. And I don't know if you remember, do you remember like how long I paused?
I do. And it's a question that I've been asking many different women recently, because we started to refresh our website, and it has been a huge project for me in my office. And one of the things is as you know, when you do your website, you're wondering, who is your company? What is the face of your company? What are the values of your company? But also is questioning me as the principal partner. So it's like I'm thinking, okay, so I know who I am internally, but how is this connection between me and my clients, for example, right? And how can I portray myself in a way that I look professional, smart, reliable, with the experience that I have, and at the same time be feminine.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a plus. It's not a minus, right?
Yeah.
And that's the reason because I paused that kind of into that question in my head, I was looking for examples, for role models.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, let me take a look at whether it's my taste or not, but who can I relate to say, yeah, at least have a comparison to say, yes, I identify with this aspect or not, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I went blank. Like, I mean, I'm sure there are, but I'm just going to say, we even talked about it, Hillary Clinton, right? It's like, no, yes, but I don't want to be that, right?
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, and this is so sad for me to see that when women try to be business-like,
Yeah.
we tend to dress like men.
Yeah.
We tend to behave like men. We
Yeah.
lose our femininity because we feel that the femininity is not respected.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
it doesn't have value or it's not knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Now, as you mentioned before, and I think that's where we started this conversation, and you also said, well, I want to be, feminine. I want to be beautiful in my work, but I also don't want to be
vulgar.
Vulgar.
Yeah.
So, and how do we find that balance, and how, not so much that we want to find balance between those two, but
you want to be yourself.
Exactly.
For me, I love to dress up.
Yeah.
I'm a girly girl, right? I like to dress up. I like to wear makeup. I like to do my hair, and I've always liked that, right? But also finding that balance where but also at the same time, I don't want to come across as I'm an influencer or showing as an influence. I want to be respected for my work, right? But at the same time, while I'm doing my work, I also want to yes, she's intelligent, she's all of this, but at the same time, I want to find that balance in the way I dress and the way I portray myself to be a feminine person, right? That's how I want to be portrayed.
Of
right?
course.
So and that's very important. And going back to what you were saying about even our industries and who our role models are, right? Even both of our industries is very male dominated, right? And I don't know, obviously, I didn't ask you that day, but your experience, right? When you walk in with a new client, right? And because your industry is so male dominated, how do people portray, or how do they see you? Right?
That's a very interesting question. I don't know. I think I have been lucky.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky. I have been lucky throughout my career, and my clients, I know their value and they appreciate my effort and my talent, right?
Yeah.
So, but what is interesting for me is I keep hearing, right, from younger generations, I would say, that the industry is shifting and is changing and women are being integrated. But what is funny for me is I still go to meetings where I am the only woman in that meeting. It's for me, it's so where are they? People keep telling me that things are shifting and changing.
Where though? We don't see it.
But they're not. Yeah. There is nobody out there, and if they are, they're not kind of in a primary role.
Yes,
I
agree
have
with
to
you.
say, right?
Yeah.
It's not.
No, they're not the decision maker.
Exactly.
Right. And for my industry, same thing. I was negotiating on a deal with a guy once, right? With a guy who's a realtor. And he gave me a compliment. I think he thought it was a compliment, but he told me that you negotiate like a man, or something you do it like a man. But he was trying to say you did a good job of this, right? And I was thinking to myself, I was no, I'm doing it as a woman, not as a man. Exactly. But at the same time, that just shows you from the real estate perspective. And that's not to say that every other man or a woman thinks that way. That's not true. But it's some of the stuff subconsciously, that's what people are thinking. Even in our industry, it's. And people are, I hear this all the time, oh, if you're a girl, it's so easy for you to sell. If you're a girl, it's so easy for you to sell. You just have to look nice. You just have to look pretty and you can sell something. No, it's not. Because the thing is, sure, maybe people will watch you online because, you look a certain way and maybe they like that. But when it comes down to doing your work, I found that a lot of people, they prefer working with men. Because in their head, they think maybe the guy's smarter. Maybe he's better at negotiating, doing whatever, any other realtor will be doing. They just assume that the guy is better. And I've also felt this a lot of times when I'm first meeting a client or when I'm first talking to them. They don't have this perception of if whether it was a guy or a girl, it would be the same. Sometimes initially it's harder for me to sell myself to be okay, this is what I know. And once, we've had a few meetings, then they're okay, she does know what she's talking about.
So what can I say?
Yeah.
I agree completely. Some of the questions that I've get, especially from clients and even my staff, right?
Yeah.
When they join me, is why did you start at KCC Architecture?
Yeah.
And my answer to them is because I reached the ceiling.
Yeah.
There was no way I could actually become either a principal or a partner in one of the firms that I work for.
Because it was male dominated?
Because there were, and I was passed by men.
Yeah.
Even if I was doing all the work, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it brings me great satisfaction now that I meet with them in some, gatherings and relationships. And when they see me, it's you made it. And it's well, it was, I
could have made it with there as well as a partner. But
exactly.
You didn't have that opportunity. For me, I think I've been very lucky, right? That because Jas, he doesn't like treat me different than anybody else. If anything, like, I'm sure the team will agree, he actually treats me better than anybody else in this office, right? The way he treats me, like, he calls me his right hand, right? But he treats me like that too. Like, any decision making, right? Even no matter how small or big it is, I'm always involved. And it's not that he just listens to me and then that's it. Like, no, whatever I say, unless he can counter me, like, I don't think this is right, he will always listen to me. Like, whatever I tell him, like, this is how it should be done, or this is how it shouldn't be done. Yeah. Right. And he, like, even at my work, like, I'm handling, I would say, more than 80% of the business here. Yeah. Right. So a lot of, his work, he like trusts me to work with that. But honestly, I feel like this is just a rare opportunity that I got. Had it not been for Jas, maybe with somebody else, I don't think I would have had this type of opportunity. And like yourself, I think I would have reached to the point where like I can't grow anymore. Yeah. I need to go and do my own thing. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it's not to say that our industries don't have a lot of, females that are at that position. It's just that there's not a lot of them. Right. Even my industry and yours as well. Right. And I think that's a little bit scary because now we're in 2024. Right. And there's a lot of like, young women that are looking up to us. Yeah. Right. And what kind of like, messaging are we sending to those women as well? It's
very interesting what you say, Maria, because for me, I'm older than you, so I'm reaching that age where I become very comfortable with who I am and what am I doing, and kind of my mind, my heart, and my actions are aligned, right? Yeah. I don't need to kind of bow to anybody to get a project or to like my proof is out there. I'm very thankful for my clients and their recommendations. Like right now, most of my clients come to me because it's the recommendation from previous clients, and they're super excited to work with me. So it's a really kind of it's a good time in my life. But if I look back of where I was before and how I arrived to where I am, there was a very lonely path. Yeah. There is really no guidance. Yeah. And I'm going to also open another kind of worms here, which is also interesting how we don't support women.
Agreed. Oh my God.
There is this. Yeah. So we are kind of in a men's world. Yeah. And then when we find a woman in our career for whatever reason, we're rivals. And it's so sad for me, right? It's like, why are we not supporting each other? I'm not saying, and by the way, I don't believe in this kind of men against women. That's not the point. It's just that the perception of what a male and a female can do, or a woman and a man, is not the same. Yeah. And I struggle with that even today. Yeah.
And this is so interesting. You brought this topic up is because before becoming a realtor, I was working for a really big developer. They're huge in Surrey, and I was working with them, and I was working alongside the executives. And I faced this at there as well. That women, we support each other, sure, but when it comes down to sitting on the big boys table, for some reason in every single, no, I wouldn't say every single, but in our minds is that there's only one girl that's going to be allowed on the big boys table. Yeah. So you have to fight it out with each other to make sure there's one girl that gets to sit with all these, like the big boys table. But at the same time, if you think about it, it's like, no, you can make more room for all these girls to come and sit on this big boys table. I'm using that wording, but that's true. Like, and I agree with you. Even for us, like, when you're going up, like you think, no, like, there's only spot for one person there, right? But whereas like for guys, I don't think that's how they think. They just compete. That's it, right? But for I would say like they compete more like in general way. For us, it's more like, okay, there's going to be one woman that's going to be allowed on this table, and we have to make sure it's us.
And there is some truth with that. Yeah. Like if we're honest to each other, I think, for example, when I was in my 30s, that was a truthful statement. Yeah. There was only maximum one woman allowed in that men's table, right? Yeah. But I think it's also part, like, we don't support each other because we have a lot of insecurities. Yeah. Like for me, it's so interesting. I'm going to share this with you because it really, even in my own experience, just blew my mind away. Mm-hmm. So I was actually at this event in downtown, and there were all the big boys, right? And I'm talking about structural engineers, mechanical engineers, developers, like all the top cream of Vancouver. And I was invited to this event, and I was actually talking to one of the very dear friend of mine, which I'm not going to say his name, but he's a very well-reputed structural engineer. He has a great reputation, and he's almost about to be retired. And we were talking, and then this other men, like older, came to talk to him, to congratulate him and to talk to him. And there was a point that he was expecting me to be nervous in that conversation.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's very interesting. Like, there was certain behavior that he was expecting from me to be like, oh, very nice meeting you, and thank you. Almost kind
like
of
I'm
almost
looking
like,
up to you. Wow.
Yeah, like thank you for letting me be here, right? Or letting me be here.
Yeah.
And at that time, I thought to myself, I stopped myself completely.
Yeah.
I hugged his hand and even took his shoulder, and I said, very nice meeting you. Thank you. It's great to be talking here with my friend, and et cetera, et cetera. It was so uncomfortable for him that he left. Like, it was, for me, it was like 30 years ago, like 20 years ago, I would have probably followed that pattern.
Yeah.
That pattern of, yes, I'm below you.
Yeah.
Yes, you have more experience. Yes, you know better than me.
Yeah.
And today is like, no, you know what? We are hand to hand. I know my business. I run it. I've done it all, right? So it's an interesting position, but I think it's a self-discovery as much as a recognition from the community.
I agree with you, yeah.
And for me, that's the part that I want to make sure that as women, we give each other the recognition that we need to continue our growth.
Yeah. And we just need to be like, it's one way to be superficially happy for somebody, but it's another to be like, more than you, like, sure, like somebody is doing great, right? But also like recognizing the fact that they are making the path for you, right? Somebody is making that path that, maybe you would be creating it on your own. But if somebody's done it already, you can follow their footsteps, right? Yeah. And as women, like, for example, if you've done that, right? It's going to be much easier for other young women to make sure that they can follow that path too. And I agree with you. Like, feeling that, like, even though, like, sometimes I feel like I know so much, but still, like, if I'm, like, in front of somebody else, like, I might second guess myself. I might, like, think twice. But I feel like with more and more deals that I've done, or with more business that I've closed, that's where the confidence comes. And that's when you're like, you know what? No, like, I know my shit. I know what I'm doing, right? And you're like, and I have the data to back it up.
Exactly.
Right? And it's like, and I agree with you. Like, you can now at this stage, like, you can pick and choose. Okay, I'm not going to work with you because I don't like your behavior. I don't like your attitude, even if I'm getting business from you.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Don't want to work with you, right? If you can't respect the way I am as a person or value that, it's not going to work.
Why would I do that? Yeah, of course. Of course.
And I've done that. I've actually, like, not worked with a lot of people because I'm like, I can't. Because a lot of them, like, in their head, because I don't know if they're insecure, but in their head, they think they're above you. And you're like, no. Yeah, that's on you.
Yeah, it's a very I think so, but I also want to kind of focus on the positive, because when I think about all this, right, I also think about the majority of my clients are male. Right. I'm starting to have female clients, which I'm very excited about. Yeah. But I mean, and I mean, it's the same for me. Yeah. They are my clients, but and I am where I am because they have supported me.
Of course. Yeah.
So and that means that the openness is there, and I think there are some people that are actually ready for women to actually flourish in the community as a businesswoman. Yes. And that's kind of where I focus my business on, and where I focus my effort and my intelligence and my talent, right? Yeah. Because battling with people that they're going to be fighting with me, right, all the way through, and they're going to question everything because their insecurities, as you said, like what's the point? Like, I have no time for that, right? Exactly. I mean, there is, but it's shifting. In that sense, it's shifting. Yeah. Now, most of my clients are my age. Yeah. And I think with my age, this kind of male-female orientation has changed, or started to change. Yeah. But I still work with older generations that, oh my God, Maria, if I tell you the stories, you would not believe me. Like, it's like, what is happening, right? Yeah. But you need to find your way through it.
100%. And I think, like, I guess fortunate enough that we both are in the position that we can say no to business, that we're like, this does not align with my values. I'm not going to do it. Yeah. Right? And, like, we have that freedom that we can do that. So I'm happy for that.
And the other thing I also want to kind of mention, especially for young women out there, is, yes, I mean, it's fantastic to be in our positions. Yeah. I know that. But I also want to kind of give a little bit of background in terms as to how we got to be where we are today.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So it's not an easy path. No. And if you want to be in a position where you have the authority, where you are respected, where you are recognized, and where you have your own business and you're independent, it's a hard path. You
Yeah.
need to train yourself. You need to learn. You need to.
Yeah.
It took me. I'm originally from Mexico, and
Yeah.
it took me 10 years to validate my career. And I have 25 years of experience in Canada,
Wow.
working for other architecture firms. And I took all the right courses, and I went back to university, and I really kind of took my train to
Yeah.
become who I am.
Yeah.
Nobody gave it to me.
No.
And I also looked for the opportunity. I was also always smart to say, I want to take the hardest project. It's
Yeah.
not because easy, because I'm going to learn the most.
Yeah.
I want to go to that event. So you need to be strategic with your career
Yes.
if you want to get somewhere. It's not because
100%.
it's going to be handed to you.
No, nothing. And if you, I think that's with any job. Like if you don't work hard, you're not gonna get to that level. Even for myself, like yesterday, I was like talking to Jas, right? Like I'm one of the first people in, me and him, and I'm probably the last person that leaves along with Jas, right? And that's because I still believe that you have to work hard to get to that stage. And for me too, like, I started working when I was 19. So when I was 19, I started working, and every single job I had, I was always the youngest. Right. But again, with you too, like I always like made sure like, I took the right path, and I went back to school. I did whatever I had to do to make sure that, I could get to the position that I am today.
Yeah, you have
So I
your
agree with
building
you.
blocks.
Yeah. Like, and I think a lot of like even the messaging that are going on even on social media right now, it's like a lot of, girls, like they're being, I guess, taken to the different path. Right. And I've seen a lot of these videos, and I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a lot of these videos where the girls, like now they don't, and there's nothing wrong with being a stay at home, but a lot of women before they were encouraged to, have your own careers, go and work hard, do this. But now they're switching back to being like, I just want to be a stay at home mom, which nothing wrong if that's what you wanted to do. But I think the messaging is a little bit wrong, because you should still have education. You should still be having your own career, because at the end of the day, you have to depend on yourself. You shouldn't be depending on anybody else.
So
Right?
it's very interesting, Maria.
Yeah.
I think we're going full circle, like as a women development, right?
Yeah.
When and I heard about this tendency now to go back to kind of the 60s, right?
Yeah.
Where the woman is staying, mom at home and taking care of the kids and the lunches and all that. And again, if I go to the root of that, and I'm going to share a little bit more about me.
Yeah.
I love my practice. I love architecture. Is my passion.
Yeah.
But if you go to my home, if whenever you come to my home, you
Yeah.
will see that you will not find the practice there. I have cooking books. I love cooking. I love sewing. I do a lot of kind of mommy things in a way, right? And I love my home, and I love the coziness of my home. So I think there is kind of that lack of, we started speaking about this, how to be feminine and how to bring your femininity into the workspace. So you don't need to be either one or the other.
Yes, agree.
And it's difficult. Like there is no teaching out there, right?
Yeah.
There is no like
role models that are doing
you
this.
need to find your way even in that, right?
Yeah.
To find how to be feminine, how to be feminine, right?
Yeah.
In all your forms,
Yeah.
and still be a businesswoman and still be respected.
Oh, 100%.
and because we haven't found that,
Yeah.
we think that now
Yeah.
going back home,
Yeah.
that's the way we're going to reconnect with that.
Agree, yeah. Because I don't know, like usually for guys, it's like it's already, society thinks that as a guy, as a male, all you have to do is you have to just go outside, work, make money, and then when you come home, that's it. Like that's what you do. Right.
Yeah.
Whereas for us, like even though if you work outside, whatever you do, you're also expected to do work at home. Right. So when that happens, that's I think when women are like, why am I working outside and I'm working inside? This makes no sense. Whereas for you, you're like, you know what? I'm passionate about cooking. I want to take care of myself. I want to make my own food, whatever it is. Right. It comes from a side of like passion that you want to do that. But that line of like, even like I see a lot of like moms and dads, like parents, right? The mom, she'll go outside work and then she'll come at home and she'll do the same thing. Right. So there's that balance is still not there. Right. Even though like I feel like maybe like, for me, for example, I don't like cooking. I don't like doing any homework. Right. Like for me, I'm lucky enough that my mom, she cooks for me. Right. She'll make my meals. And the funny thing is, so my mom, she's in Pakistan right now.
Oh.
And so nobody's making my food. And the other day I went to my friend's house and I was hugging her grandma and she's like, you actually got like, she's like, you've lost weight. And she's like, are you like on a diet? And I was like, no, I'm just like starving these days because my mom's not feeding me. And so funny because she's like very motherly. So before I was leaving, she like packed me lunch.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. Because she's like, you need this. Because I was like, I'm not that's not me. I just can't cook for myself. I can't do all of that, right?
Yeah.
So going back to that, like, and I think that's where, like, I think a lot of that balance issue comes, where, like, if you're working outside and you're working at home, it's going to be hard for you, right?
And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
For me, my biggest struggle today is actually that, my personal and my business.
Yeah.
Because you want to be the best at what you do, but you also want to have a life,
Yeah.
right? So it's been a little bit of a struggle of mine as well.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to be more how would I say, organized, but there is only 24 hours every day.
Yeah.
So why can you, like, and 20 is my business, so 4 is for me. So it's like,
how do you find
the balance,
Yeah.
right? And how do you take care of yourself?
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
the society is also changing for
Yes.
men.
Yeah.
Like I have to, again, I want to remind us, and
Yeah, of
especially
course.
me, that I have also guys that they work with me at KCC, and they are absolutely supportive. They are absolutely there and present and giving their 100%. So, and I know, I mean, they're married, and I know that they go back home and they still put 100% with their families,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's a shift that we just need to stay on track. Like women, I think we
100%.
need to stay on track and say, what I really want?
Yeah.
What is what I really want? And
Yeah.
I personally, for me, and I'm not speaking for anybody else, just for me, I cannot be me without being an architect.
Yeah.
It's so embedded in my veins that
Yeah.
I can't understand myself
Yeah.
if I don't exercise my profession.
Yeah.
And I knew that since I was very young.
Because
So
it's a huge part of you.
it
right?
is. It is part
like
of
you
me.
said, like, out of the amount of time that you spend in a day, most of it goes towards your work.
And
right?
I love it.
Yeah.
It's no work for me. It's my passion.
I know.
So I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I say this all the time. I say Monday mornings, I never like wake up in a bad mood that I have to go to work. I'm happy. Like, I'm so happy. I'm like, yeah, today and even Sunday I'm working. It's not like in Mondays, like I haven't worked Saturday, Sunday, but I'm so happy because I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm doing something I like.
Yeah.
Right. And every single day is different, which I also like.
And when you think about it, for example, thinking about these women that they want to go back to the home, is probably they haven't found their passion. They haven't found really what they move them in outside home, right?
Yeah.
But I think for me that was kind of very strong since I was very young, right?
Yeah.
So I could not follow it.
Yeah.
I could not.
But I think that also relates to going back to the role model, right? If women are, if you're like looking up to somebody, right? This is what I want to be like. This is who I want to be like.
Yeah.
If they don't have that, then how can they find their passion, right? Like, who do you look up to that you're like, okay, I really want to be like her, right? So going back to that, have you found your role model now?
I haven't. I actually haven't.
No, you're still searching.
I am, and I mean, just to share with you where I am with the website. So we are actually scheduling the photographer and everything to take photos for us.
Yeah.
And interesting enough, I've like the photographer asked me to look for some portraits. Hey, what do you want and what? And I started kind of Googling portraits for women, right? And it's so interesting because all the photos, they mimic men positions.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the crossing arm, the open leg,
The wide legs, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Very male in a female body. It was, and I was just thinking, wow, this has to change somehow. We need to find a way where we are ourselves in a business world, right?
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
It's
it
been
is.
fun.
Yeah,
It's been
and
fun.
I went out for lunch today with a friend of mine, and I was telling her like, hey, I'm going to be doing podcasts with Karla, and I was like just telling her a little bit, and I would say, and I told her like what we're going to be discussing, and then I told her at the same time, I said, is there some? And then I asked her the question. I said, who's your role model? She took the longest pause too, and then I was in your position, just staring at her, waiting for her to be like, tell me your.
Now you understand why.
Yeah, and then I was like, that's so interesting. And then I was telling her like, okay, like if there's anything that you want us to cover, right? And for her to like, it was like completely blank because she's like, I've never thought about this. I've never thought about like my brand, right? Or like what I portray or how I portray myself, right? And I think it's interesting, but also it will be interesting. Maybe even in 1 year we could do another podcast and we could talk about the things that have changed and you know how far you know we've come, but also like if the people that we are, you know. We don't want to be masculine. We both are very feminine. We want to stay in our like that feminine, what do you call it, feminine energy, right? But at the same time, be that like authority at our work, be that like boss lady at our work, right? So it'll be interesting to see how even the next few months, and maybe if we keep talking about these type of topics, we're going to encourage people to really like challenge it. Like, who is my role model? Like, who do I look up to that in business, I want to make business moves like this person. Right.
And even a little bit of a little bit of a self-reflection.
Yeah.
Like, am I dressing really the way I want to dress?
Yeah. 100%.
Am I really wearing my hair the way I want to? I want to
Yes.
wear it. Like,
Yeah.
am I really behaving every day the way I want to behave?
Yeah.
Like, it's really kind of a little bit of self-reflection to evaluate where are you in your own being and kind
Yeah.
of, as you say, feminine energy, right?
Yeah.
Why do I need to bend
Yeah.
to fit in?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we have been doing for such a long time
Yeah.
that we don't even recognize ourselves anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's sad, but
I agree.
I see it every day.
Yeah.
Like, I see it even with, so I have two young women working with me, which I really adore, both of them, and they are very. I can see them already succeeding. So it really fills my heart.
Yeah.
But I also see them struggling with their own identity.
Yeah.
Right, like their own way of finding who they are within all this male-oriented industry.
Yeah.
Right, which it still is today.
Yeah.
And I will challenge people to really tell me, no, Karla has changed, and
Yeah.
show me how, right? Because
Exactly,
it's pretty male, and the construction world is still pretty male oriented.
yes, yeah.
Like, it's completely, again, every meeting I go,
Yeah.
for 99%, I'm the only woman in that meeting. So
Yeah.
it hasn't changed really,
No.
right?
And my industry, the same thing. Like, I think majority of the realtors that I talk to, they are going to be, even like clients, even the people who are investing, majority of the ones that are decision maker, they are men.
Yeah.
Right. And then the few women, like, that I talk to, there's a select few. It's not that there isn't. There's a select few that are, they're dominating the industry. They're pretty good at what they're doing. But majority of the other women that I found in real estate, they're also like part-time. They do this something as like a side thing. It's not like their main thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a side thing for them. So, it'll be interesting to see maybe in the, the next decade or so, we'll have more, females coming forward and them being like the, one of the, a force to reckon with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Maria, before we go, I
Yeah.
wanna ask you a question that
Yes.
I was asked many years ago,
Yeah.
and I didn't know. But what would you tell
Yeah.
the young generation? What if you were to say a sentence to the young women that are currently, let's say, studying
Yeah.
for to get the realtor license, or
Yeah.
architects or lawyers? So what would you tell them?
I would say I think the main thing I would say is, like, don't think less of yourself, right? Because I think as a society, like, as a society, we're always, like, as women, we're always raised to, how do I say this? Like, we're always raised to compromise. We're always taught to compromise in a workplace, everywhere else too. I wish I could tell, like, all the women out there, do not compromise, right? And I learned this at my old job, right? We were working, and this girl, she was telling me she's thinking of getting a raise, right? And she's going to ask for a raise. And I said, great. And then she was telling me about how she was talking to her dad, and she's super smart. And she's talking to her dad, and she was telling her dad, like, hey, like, I'm thinking of getting a raise. And her dad's like, are you sure you want to ask for this raise? Because it's a huge raise, this and that. And then she was like, if it was my brother asking you the same thing, would you have said this? And he very honestly said, no, I would have told him it's fine.
Wow.
Right? So I think as
Wow.
women also, like, we should also, like, not compromise, right? If you believe that you deserve something, right, you have to demand for it. You have to ask for it. But also put in that work for it, right? Because at the end of the day, if you put in the work and you demand that,
Yeah.
it's going to come your way.
Of
Right?
course,
It's going to
of
be
course.
yours. So, like, work hard, really work hard, and demand what you deserve. Yeah. That's what
Yeah.
I'd say. What about you? What would you say?
Well, that's very beautiful answer, actually. I think what I would say to young women today is trust yourself.
Yes.
Trust your intuition, because it's another kind of vein that we have that is very real to us, and it really provides a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
So trust your intuition, trust your belief system, trust your feelings when you are in a meeting, how to act, how to behave, how to interact with others. Like, don't hesitate to be yourself.
Yeah.
And
Don't overthink.
exactly, don't
Yeah.
overthink things.
Yeah.
And also cultivate that feminine energy.
Yeah.
Like, in a way that be very aware of the decision making, even that if there are small decisions that you make during the day, and in your career particularly, of course.
Yeah.
And be aware of those, and really think about, why am I doing this? Is this to fit in? Is this to mimic a man or the male kind of energy?
Yeah.
Or this is really because I believe in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's for me, that has
Yeah.
the thing that has brought success for me.
Wow.
Like I've never, like people that know me, they will tell you that. Like I can be known as a very hard-minded person.
Yeah.
But it's because I believe so much in me, in
Yeah.
what I can contribute into a conversation,
Yeah.
or even like I don't compromise on that. Like
No.
I of course I listen, and if I can change and I see a value into it, of course I will do it.
Yeah.
But there is no compromise for me, as you said, in terms of who you are. That's
Yeah.
for me what defines you.
Yeah.
Right? And if
100%.
it's your family, then be passionate about it. And if
Yeah.
it's your work, then be passionate about it,
Yeah.
right? Embrace it.
Yeah. I'm honestly learning to do that. Right now, like I used to do that more before. I used to overthink. I used to second guess myself a lot. Right. And
We all did.
yeah. And Jas always tells me, he's like, no, like say it. And like sometimes I'll say something to him. Like for example, we'll be on a meeting, right? And it'll be on speaker, we're talking. And then after that, I'm like to Jas, why did this happen? Why did that happen? Like I'm saying all these things. He's like, why did you not say it to that person? Right. And this used to happen a lot before. And I would like think to myself, and then I feel bad afterwards because I'm like, why did I not say this? Why did I not do this? I should have done this. And the thing is, in like you're saying, your intuition is telling you, ask these things, say these things. But for some reason, I don't. Right? So like when afterwards he would tell me that, then I'm like thinking like, it's not that he just thought of this. Like I also thought of this, but why did I not do it?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But I think it's interesting. And I think I'm going to take that advice from you. I'm going to stop overthinking too.
Yeah.
And just do whatever like I think is right. Yeah. Because majority of the time afterwards, I'm like, ugh, I should have said this or I should have done that. It made sense. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
So we are, one thing that I've learned is like, we're very hard with ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, let alone what the society, what the person in front of you is thinking about you. We tend to be very hard with ourselves. And I think that has been ingrained in our brains, right? Like women have to be this perfect thing, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, as I have a sentence for myself that I'll be happy to share, but it's like, play with it.
Yeah.
Play with an idea, play with an emotion, play with a thought, and just allow yourself to go into different directions with that, right?
Yeah.
And not being so rigid or so like, if I choose this is forever. No, like, you know, let's play with it a little bit. And how does it feel for me?
Yeah.
And take it or leave it and keep moving forward, right?
Yeah. And if you mess up, you mess up. Like
exactly.
you're human. At the
Allow
end of the
yourself
day.
to make mistakes, right? If you don't, so one of the things in my office is we share all the good and we share all the bad, but we share the bad not to make anybody feel bad.
Yeah.
We share the bad so we learn from it.
Oh, wow. I'm going to adopt that because I do Monday morning meetings with all my realtors, right?
Me too, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to talk about that, like share something that you did and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. The bad, right? And then also the good.
We tend to, you know,
Yeah,
hide
kinda
the
like
bad and nobody sees it,
because
right?
you're scared. Like I don't
of
want
course,
them. Yeah,
of
you don't
course.
you don't want somebody to think, oh, she's an idiot. No, it's like right. It's like no, we want to know because that, like, you know, you're human and we all make mistakes.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's
and
no
for
way you
me,
could don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I firmly believe in that. Like I mean, it's not that I embrace mistakes either, right? I don't want to make too many mistakes. But if we make the mistake, let's take the opportunity to learn from it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to see it again. I don't want to, like, otherwise we wouldn't make it, right? So we also have Monday meetings at my office.
Yeah.
And we review all the projects, we check everybody, and we kind of schedule our work for the week. And that's when we say, okay, so what was right?
Yeah.
What was wrong?
Yeah.
How can we improve in this? And
Yes.
but with that openness, like it's not about the profile, right? The coolness and just the business and blah blah blah. It's more about integrating. And I think that's also maybe that's another podcast. How actually we are. What is the difference between having a woman
in charge
or a man?
Yeah.
Because if you see, right, that's
another. See, the funny thing is, before this podcast, you were saying, Maria's so nervous. I don't know. We should do this podcast. You're already talking about a second podcast now.
No, but I mean, because all these subjects
so
are really interesting.
About, right?
Yeah, very interesting for me.
Like, and for me, I actually don't come across a lot of women that want to talk like this, right? So for me, I'm like, yeah, keep talking. Emmanuel's going like this at me, and I'm like, no, we're gonna keep talking because I like this. And these are the type of conversation I want to have, right? Especially for somebody like you've had your struggle phase a long time ago, right? Yeah. For me, like like a little bit overcome my struggle phase, but I'm still like, taking that path to where you are right now, right? Yeah. So for me, like all of this is so refreshing and so much to learn from. And I'm like, yes, tell me more. Let's do another podcast.
No, it's very interesting. Like I want, because the thing for me is there is nothing out there for me to refer to.
Yeah.
Like for me, like
agreed.
I need to, but I at the same time I love it because I've become very self-aware.
Yeah.
So not only with my person but in my business, and how do I behave, and I know that, for example, if you talk to my staff, because I make sure that I am that way. It's like I'm open, but I'm more embracing.
Yeah.
Like it's not even. The other day I had somebody, that I did the tenant improvement for my own office space, yours is beautiful, but it's a little bit different than mine, right? And one of the things in my office is the first thing you see is the couch and the living room, right?
Yeah.
And all my clients are like, they come and they just sit. Yeah. Like it's just, the other day I was even sharing with you that we were in a meeting room. I was very busy, looking at the project in the computer, the TV, all that, and blah, blah, blah. And then one of my clients stood up and went directly to the kitchen, put himself a platter with cheese and all the stuff in the kitchen, and then came back and offered it at the table. I was like, what's happening here? Like, what? That's exactly what I wanted to create.
You want them to feel at home. Yeah.
And that's not something that you see. I mean, we're very professional. My office is not a home, but because you've been there. But and you will see it in my new website. Yeah. But that comfort and that, again, that feminine energy that is part of my business, right? Yeah. It has been embraced in such a beautiful way that now I have clients saying, I want my office to be exactly like yours. Like it's because it's that different approach to business.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not smart or we don't do a good job, right? But it's about how do you, again, how do that lead, feminine energy and how that embracing mistakes instead of claiming them, or being more focused on like my team. Again, I have many phrases in my team that they don't leave. I mean, my team is super happy working with me because there is something different about it, right? So that's, again, for me, is what is the difference between a man in charge and a woman in charge? Yeah. How can we kind of learn from each other, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. Oh, wow. I'm like, today, I think at the end of the day, when I go home, I'm going to have a lot to think about.
Me too.
And this is like really interesting. And of course, we're going to have to do that second podcast for sure.
Of course.
Right? And now I'm hoping you got, like, this is your first podcast, so you got all that nervousness out of your...
honestly, now I feel terrible because I'm self-inviting myself. So
no, why are you feeling... actually... I'm going to maybe just tell the viewers this right now. We are looking for people to come on our podcast, and we want people to have different experiences, right? We don't want just like, us always talking about real estate. We don't want that. We want people to tell us about their stories, their thoughts, their views, right? Because someone out there, they can relate to that, right? Yeah. Maybe this podcast, even if there's one person that's inspired by even one sentence that we said, that's all we want. Right?
Exactly, yeah.
So at the end of the day, we want people, and if you are one of those people, do reach out to us. We want to make sure you come to our podcast. And if you're interested in like doing that collaboration, do let us know. Is there anything else before we close down the podcast that you want to mention?
Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for coming. Yeah.
Very
and
cool.
For those of you, if you want to see Karla's work, you can go to our website, KCC Architecture. It's also going to be in our bios as well, I believe, in our Spotify and YouTube. So do go ahead, and if you still can't find it, make sure you send me a DM or call me, and I'll make sure that I send that over to you. On our side of things, make sure you follow us on Facebook. There is an Invest with Jas group, so make sure you're part of that. YouTube, you can listen to this on YouTube or Spotify, and then all of our social media platforms, they are going to be in our description. But that's about it. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, and we're gonna see you in another episode.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.